Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Michelle Morris. I work with Consolidated Planning Group, and we are a holistic financial planning firm that focuses on serving the special needs community. We love putting on these webinars to really help educate the community and advocate for the community. I'm so glad that you're here with us, helping to grow this movement of educating the community and letting people know what resources are out there for them. I do have a couple of housekeeping items before we get going. I want to let you know, first of all, that we do record all of our webinars and we put them on our YouTube channel. So in the chat box, I have put my email address, my cell phone number, and a link to that YouTube channel so that you can go check out these webinars and hopefully get more helpful information for your family. The other thing I want to let you know is that later on today, you're going to receive an email if you've registered for this webinar ahead of time. You'll get the email that has a link to the recording as well as the slides from today's presentation. If you are already on our YouTube channel, or maybe you're listening to this on our podcast and you would like a copy of the slides, feel free just to send us an email. That email address would be contact@cpgcares, contact@cpgcares.net. Sorry, don't forget the .net part. Just email us and ask us for a copy of the slides for whatever webinar, and we're happy to send that out. We cannot see you or hear you in the webinar because of the webinar mode, but the chat box is a great place to put any questions and comments. And I really do appreciate seeing your comments and questions in there. So feel free to put that. And then the last thing, this is a little bit more of a personal note. I have a very large dog who is very afraid of storms, and it's storming outside. So if you hear whining and pacing behind me, I promise it's not me or my stomach growling. It's this big old dog who's a great big baby. So just go ahead and giggle a little bit in the background because this dog is going to be annoying. All right. So without any further ado, let's get into today's topic, the letter of intent. And why do you need a letter of intent? Let's start off with Consolidated Planning Group. Why do we do these webinars and why should you even listen to us? Well, we've been in financial services for over 30 years. We are completely, fully licensed in insurance, investments, securities, anything that any traditional financial advisor would do for you, we do for families that we work with. But because all four financial advisors at Consolidated Planning Group are parents to loved ones with needs, we focus on serving the community and bringing the special needs planning into the financial planning so that both sides of your household will be better served. Without a roadmap of what you need to be doing for your loved one, it can be very, very difficult to make sure that you've hit all of the resources and all of the benefits, all of those state and federal benefits that are available to you. Things like that are so important to help make sure that there will be enough money at the end of your life to take care of your child for the end of their life. And that's the sticking point, right? Because most financial advisors are going to help you plan to the end of your life. And that's great for most people. But when you have a loved one who might not be able to be completely independent, they might need your help for the rest of their life. It's almost like planning for a third retirement. So we help you understand what that planning looks like. We are always sure to further our education. We are chartered special needs consultants. We are members of the Special Needs Planning Academy, and we're nationally certified Social Security advisors. So we live this and breathe this every single day of our lives, not just at work, but in our own families as well. So we help families with things like Lifetime protection planning for your loved one. What does that look like? What would happen if you or your spouse were no longer here? You might lose a breadwinner. You might lose a caregiver. You might lose both. That can create a lot of headaches and frustration and turmoil for your family. We help parents think through transition planning. What do you have to have in place when your child turns 18 and now they're a young adult? There are legal issues. You also want to think about housing and what happens after high school. How can your loved one have money set aside for them that won't jeopardize their other benefits? Well, we can help with an ABLE account strategy and how the money should flow with the ABLE account, with a special needs trust, with the waiver programs. We help you think about that future cost of their care. Just because maybe it's going to take $5 million for your loved one to be taken care of after you're gone. But you don't necessarily need to have all $5 million in their special needs trust when you pass away, because that money will be invested, it will grow, and they'll slowly draw down that balance. So we can help you think about what the break even is on that and how much needs to be there upon your passing. Of course, those state and federal benefits, how and when to fill out those forms, what you're going to be required to give them, what they need to know, and how they qualify your child as being disabled and whether or not they will be able to get benefits. We can help you with all of that. We can help you find local resources for your family, educational options, vocational options, maybe community homes, living arrangements, things like that. We can help. And again, we're here to advocate for you and to help educate you. We have found that a lot of times, friends and neighbors and family members try to be helpful and supportive, but they might not know all the nuances of planning for special needs. And they might give you some advice that's not quite correct. And they might think, well, you have a child with autism and I have a child with autism, and we're getting this benefit, so you should too. And there's definitely something wrong if you're not getting this benefit. Well, they don't necessarily know all the rules of the benefits or all the circumstances of your situation. But we are rare experts at Consolidated Planning Group. We understand these things. And out of 263,000 financial advisors across the United States, fewer than 200 focus on this stuff the way that we do. It's less than 0.1%. So you might hear a lot of noise out there, and we help you filter out what is real, what is noise, and what is helpful for the families that we work with. A couple of bits of information just before we go on. Think about that, what's going to happen after high school. Planning early is going to give your family the best chances and the easiest planning. It's going to be lower stress. It's going to be easy to make small little adjustments that have a larger impact on your family's future. And you really want to think about things that could be impacted by waiting. For example, if you continue to put off planning for the future and you should happen to pass away, that's going to cause a lot of trouble for your loved ones. If you're waiting on maybe purchasing life insurance does nothing but get more expensive the more you wait. And by locking in your insurability early, you're helping to protect yourself against the rising costs that would be associated with health issues that might come up. Or what if you get a big diagnosis and then you're no longer insurable at all? Many families use that life insurance to fund the special needs trust. So it's a very important tool, and waiting is not helpful. Tour those programs, look at, vocational, residential, educational options, and tour them early. See what that community or what that campus looks like, what that day program looks like for your loved one. They might have waiting lists, and you definitely want to get on those waiting lists if there is one after you tour the programs. And of course, we always talk about naming a sibling as a successor caregiver. Sometimes it sounds like the greatest plan. Sometimes it can create resentment on both sides of that equation. So just be very, very careful about that and think it through whether or not that's going to be right for you. Now, I have not gotten around to updating these slides yet, so I'm sorry for the transition in what these slides look like, but the information is all still there. And I promise I'm going to get this fixed so that they all match again. Um, but let's get into this letter of intent. First of all, don't panic. Okay, that's the most important thing. A letter of intent might seem quite overwhelming, but it's not. Really, when you break it down into smaller chunks and smaller pieces and you understand what this is, you're going to see that it's not as um, daunting as you might initially think. So, a letter of intent is a very important part of planning for the future for your loved one. Think about, it's not a legal document. You should think about it more like a love letter. You're writing this because you love your family and you want whoever is going to come along and act as support for your family in the future. You want them to know your wishes and your family's wishes for how you want things done. That's basically in a nutshell. It's a manual that's putting together, how to care for your loved one after you pass away. And this is going to be very helpful for the trustee of your special needs trust, the successor caregivers to your loved ones, and even the rest of your family, because nobody knows more about your child than you do. And what we find in our business, of course, we work with families and we often find that maybe one spouse knows everything about the child. They know more about the schoolwork, the disability, the doctor's appointments, the special needs side of your family. And then we find often that the other spouse is the one who knows more about the money side of their family. What investments do you have? What bank accounts do you have? What does your budget and billing and retirement account? What's going on with those things? The letter of intent will help make sure that both sides of the family coin are on the same page. And by designating people who are going to help support your family through this, experts like us know how to help your family on both sides of that coin. So sometimes people think, well, I already have a will. I already have a special needs trust or a revocable trust. Maybe I even have guardianship or a power of attorney. Um, why do we need another document when we already have this planning done that's going to be here for my loved one? Well, the letter of intent really covers things that these don't, and it helps make sure that your child's financial future is taken care of, but that you also have a comprehensive plan in place that is designed for someone to help care for your loved ones. It's so important because, maybe in your last will, you have a lot of different information. In your special needs trust, uh, you have information that might not be in your will. Your power of attorney is not meant to tell somebody how to take care of your loved one. But the letter of intent is meant to fill in those gaps in all those legal documents. For example, a trust says, how is this money going to be spent? But the letter of intent will help people understand why the money should be spent this way and what the money should be spent on. For example, you've worked so hard all your life and you've paid for life insurance and you've built up your investments so that you can leave them to take care of your loved one with needs. When you pass away, you don't want their yearly trip to Disney World to end just because you're gone. You want the family to continue on with those things that your child loves. That's where the letter of intent would be helpful to say, hey, I've set aside this money so that that yearly trip to Disney World or um, going to the beach every summer or our family trip to Colorado to see the snow every winter. Make sure that those things can still happen. Not only does it need the funding, but it needs the instruction. It prevents disruption. It keeps that daily routine going. It helps the doctors understanding the medical history and those little nuanced issues like emotional triggers. Whoever comes in to take care of your loved one will have a manual, an instructional guide to make sure that everything keeps flowing almost as smoothly. Well, not as smoothly as if you were here, but as smoothly as they possibly could, at least. And what about that mental burden? Someone comes in to help take care of your child and they know nothing, and you leave them with no instruction. Oh my gosh, how overwhelming is that for them? And then how peaceful would it be for you to know that when you do pass, you've put together this booklet of information to make sure that your loved one is taken care of? It's really going to help everybody sleep better to have this tangible asset in writing to know how someone should take care of your loved ones. All right, I don't see any questions in the chat box yet, so I'm going to keep going. But if you have questions or comments, please put them in. So this is meant, again, to communicate your knowledge, your hopes for the future, and your desires for what you want your child to do in their life. Put it all in writing on paper for their loved one. You can identify, their diagnoses, their medical history. What medications are they on and what are their instructions for taking them? Does it need to be taken with food and what time? And, what are the dosages? Who are their physicians? If there's some kind of an emergency, who needs to be called? What are their likes and dislikes, their functional abilities? Do they have any allergies? Do they have any weird little things about them? For example, one thing that I would have put into my letter of intent when my son was younger, he was not allergic to apples and he was not allergic to cinnamon. We never had any problems with either one, apples or cinnamon. But there was one specific product, and that was that instant oatmeal that comes in a packet and you add like hot water. The apple cinnamon flavor of that instant oatmeal would make a red ring on his face. Anywhere it touched his face, he would have a red rash. Now, something crazy like that, nobody's going to think about that. Nobody's going to say, oh, he doesn't have an allergic reaction to apples or cinnamon, so he shouldn't have this. Those are the kinds of weird little nuances and little quirks about our kiddos that should go into this letter of intent. Every child is different. Your child's letter of intent is not going to look anything like anybody else's letter of intent because your family is unique, your child is unique. It's easier, I think, to start with the facts and then move on to the fun stuff and the details. Other people think it's easier to start with the fun stuff, but however you do it, the most important thing is that you have something in writing. And this letter, we want you to think of it as a living document, something that you can go back to as your child and family grow and evolve. Your letter of intent should also grow and evolve. So make sure that you're updating it regularly. Maybe, around your child's birthday or pick a date that is a good time for your family to get together and reflect on this, look at this information and think about what needs to be changed in the letter of intent. There's a great list here of some of the items you could put into your letter of intent. But what I think is really important is that you let the family and especially your loved one with needs participate as much as they're able to, because this is their life. And you know everything about them, but what do they want? What do they want their future to look like? You want their desires to be communicated. Not only your loved one with needs, but your other children and your spouse. They should be involved in this too, because maybe they have insights that you haven't thought about. You have a sibling who might say, well, you didn't realize this, but maybe little Johnny hides his broccoli every time you serve it. And for some reason, he's always in a bad mood after you serve broccoli. Well, maybe Johnny hates broccoli and you knew that and you put it in your letter, but maybe it's something you didn't realize. Or maybe, I've noticed that when my child has a bad day at school, they always come home and they always want to color. So maybe that's one of their good coping mechanisms. And someone else in your family didn't realize that. These are the kinds of things that you want to talk about. What do you already have in place for them? And this is where consolidated planning group can really come in handy in helping you have a good idea of what you have in place, what needs to be done, what hasn't been done yet, what benefits you're receiving from the government, and what the rules and regulations are about those benefits so that they don't get messed up in the future. If your future caregiver doesn't know the important things like the fact that your loved one cannot have more than $2,000 in their bank account or they could lose Medicaid, they need to know that. And those are the kinds of things that we at Consolidated Planning Group can help you examine within your family. And you can put our information into the letter of intent so that someone knows that they can call us. We can help guide them down the road. What about their personality, their habits, recreation, hobbies, fitness? What do you want for your child? What spiritual and religious values do you want to be taught? What family traditions do you have? All of those things need to go into the letter of intent. Think about who is your circle of support, not just within your family, but within your community. Who are the paid professionals who help you? Who is your advisor, your legal team, your doctors? All of those things. Where do you find important information to help your family, like the insurance policy and the bank accounts and the computer passwords? And something very important there. If this letter of intent is done on your computer and kept on your computer, then you're going to have to let your person know how to find them. If you have everything locked away and you haven't let someone know how to get the information, it's not going to be helpful at all. I see a great note in the chat box I'm just going to read out, and I really appreciate this, Jay, your kind words. We appreciate your detailed information as always. You and your team does outstanding work in helping families with special needs. Thank you. Is there a template with some basic do's and don'ts for the letter of intent? There could be a checklist to drive good input with a drop-down menu with options. Some maybe a video. Well, come on, give us a break. We try to give out as much free, helpful information as possible. We are going to include a template for you. But, this is going to have to be something that your family does and spends some time on. And we are going to help you as much as possible. But this webinar, this checklist, and the things we're going to be going through on the next few slides are also going to be very helpful. But just to answer your question, we are going to include a letter of intent template that is form fillable for you. So you will have that. All right. So some examples of things that might go into a letter of intent. This is fictional Hannah. Maybe you can say something like, Hannah likes to dress herself, but she needs a little bit of help picking out the right outfit. She sometimes might need help with buttons or zippers and deciding which clothes are good for the weather outside. She really enjoys clothes that are soft. She hates things that are going to scratch her skin. So, things like that. Just, that. And you automatically probably, when you're shopping for clothes for Hannah, you look for things that are soft because but someone who comes into your family to help Hannah might not know that. So think about that. She prefers colorful clothing, but pants instead of skirts. Maybe she likes to be more feminine in the colors she's wearing and the soft textures, but she likes to wear pants. She walks to school with her friends Lena and Scotty, but I follow behind closely to help make sure they're safe. This simple paragraph goes a long way in helping someone understand what a morning getting ready to send Hannah off to school might look like. What about something like this? In the mornings and before bed, Hannah can brush her own teeth, but she won't do it unless you tell her to do it. When she's told to go upstairs and get ready for bed, she won't remember what she needs to do. But if you tell her one step instructions like go brush your teeth, get your pajamas on. Okay, next we're going to read a story. And then we're going to get into bed. Whatever those step by step instructions, maybe that's what Hannah needs, not an overall go get ready for bed. So understanding something like that might be beneficial for the successor caregiver of Hannah. Here's some other ideas of things that you can include in your letter of intent. I saw one thing that said, maybe you should make this into a binder. And you can have different sections in the binder and include these bits of information in the section. So under a personal profile, you might have nicknames, birth dates, how they prefer to communicate, what their personality is like, their strengths, their preferences. This could be something like what they love to eat, what they hate, things like that. You definitely want to have a section about their medical history and their care, insurance details, diagnoses, physicians. How often do they see their physicians? What medications they're on? What does a daily routine in their life look like? From waking up to bedtime. What do we do on a daily basis? What are my morning rituals, meal preferences, and ideas? Hey, if you have a recipe that little Jacob loves and that's his favorite thing, maybe consider including some family recipes or, something like that can help him feel more at home. What are some of their behavioral support issues? Where do they need help? What's going to trigger their anxiety? Or, is a loud noise, a loud, crowded environment, something that is really going to trigger them? Let people know. And how do you deal with it if you have to be in a situation like that? What are some calming techniques that you use that work for your child? What about their social and recreational habits? Favorite foods and videos? What do they like to watch on TV or movies? Do they like to go to the movie theater? Do they participate in religious activities? What employment and education do they have? How are they doing in school? What's their day program look like? Do they have an IEP? Are they working with the Texas Workforce Commission or some other work program on training for employment? Do you have a work history or goals for their future? And then think about their final wishes. It's hard. I know it's really hard to think about death and to plan for death, but it's going to happen to all of us. And the more we get our head out of the sand and quit pretending it's not going to happen, the better off we're going to be. So have your intentions in there regarding final arrangements. What does residential care look like for your loved one? What's going to happen when you're not here anymore? And what preferences do you have for the end of their life as well? How will that be paid for? Issues like this are very, very important for families to think about. And it's not fun. Um, it's necessary, you know, and the older you get, the longer you wait, the harder those conversations are going to be. So put it out into your letter of intent, get it out there. When you look at it year after year after year as you're growing and evolving, you're going to change some of these things. Obviously, you know, maybe your child doesn't want to be called Johnny anymore. He prefers Jonathan. You have to change his nickname in the letter of intent. Maybe now he hates spaghetti, even though that was his favorite food when he was 7 years old. Things like that. It's going to change. Make sure you're changing and updating this document. So, getting started, you know, I don't suggest that you just start with a blank piece of paper unless you want to. You know, I used to be an English teacher before my financial services background came about. I was an English teacher. So writing an essay for me, I didn't mind that at all. I would open up a blank sheet of paper and love that because I can just pour all my ideas out. Most people don't think that way. So here's a way that you can get started. And what I want you to think about is the fact that any letter of intent, even if it's not finished, any help is better than not having one at all. Maybe it's your letter of intent is more like a notebook style and it looks like a journal and you write things about your loved one. Maybe your letter of intent is literally laid out as letters to your child or letters that you would write to the caregiver of your child. Maybe it's bullet points. Maybe it's scribbles. Just get the information from your head somehow onto paper. So this particular, you know, slide focuses on start with the fun stuff. Maybe it's easier for you that way. Not with the medical history or the final wishes, the hard stuff. Start with fun things like their favorites, favorite foods, music that makes them dance. What would a perfect Saturday afternoon look like for them? Think about that stuff. And then maybe, you know, as you're thinking about what that daily or weekly routine looks like, keep a notepad out. Keep a notepad in your kitchen or with you in your bag and write down, you know, over the course of several days, what are those little things that people wouldn't necessarily think about? The automatic things that you just do without thinking about it, like you always have to have the sandwiches cut into triangles, or the blue coffee mug is what the nighttime drink has to come from. Whatever those little things might be for your child and for your family, put in your little notebooks and then transfer that into the letter of intent. Now, you have to get that professional data into this notebook or this plan, however you prefer to have it. The medications, the doctor's information, the school information, insurance cards. Make sure everything is centrally located so that it's easy to find. Like I said, some people might put this into a binder. Some families call that their grab and go binder or their emergency binder, or maybe just, you know, a family binder. You can keep it that way. You can keep it on your computer as long as somebody knows how to get there. Maybe keep one printed sheet in case you are crossing the street tomorrow and you get run over by a bus, at least one printed sheet so that someone knows how to get onto your computer and how to find this information. And then share it with others at least once a year. Share it with your trusted contacts or put a copy in a lockbox or give a copy to your advisors, your attorney, your parents or your whoever, whoever your group is in your life, make sure they're able to find this. Those future trustees and key family members and supports that you have need to know what to do. If you set a recurring calendar reminder to go through this, or you do it, like I said before, on a birthday or a holiday or plan day, whatever that looks like for your family, maybe even make it a special day for your family. It's a special little holiday. We're going to go to the park and talk about what's changed over the last year and what our wishes are for the new year, and go back and put those things into the letter of intent. You could even, have a LOI cake. I don't know, make it fun. Not everything needs, let me say this, not everything that is difficult needs to be difficult. Let it be fun. So, as a gift to you, we will be sending this letter of intent workbook. Once you download it to your computer and you open it up, there's blanks where it will say, the name and address, and have a spot for you to list out doctors and diagnoses and medications. And it'll ask you several questions, and you can use this as a great starting off point. If the workbook is not your thing and you prefer to write something on your own, you can do that. Any of the ideas that I share here, it's like a buffet, right? You take what you want, leave what doesn't appeal to you, but get it going and get to work. This is really going to help inform those future caregivers. And it's so important because so many people struggle with being a caregiver. It's a hard job. You know that. You know what it's like to be the caregiver of your loved one. Over 53% of caregivers say that their own health worsens when they're having to care for others because they're not able to take care of themselves the way that they should. So if you can make this easier on yourself or on the future caregivers, then your own health and their health is going to be better. Most caregivers don't know how to put together a financial plan for their special needs loved one. And that's where we are here. And that's why we're here to help. So we help families through all kinds of things as it relates to special needs planning. And I only have a few slides left. This webinar is probably going to end a little shorter than an hour. But go ahead and put any last questions you might have in the chat box. We can use the end of this meeting kind of as a Q&A session if you'd like. We talk about developing that comprehensive special needs care plan, figuring out the costs ahead of time so that you can have enough money flowing into that special needs trust when you, the parent, passes away. We help families understand the waiver programs, SSI, Medicaid, SSDI, Medicare, childhood disability benefits, all of these different things you've heard of, but you might not know exactly what they are or how they work. We can help with that. ABLE accounts, legal things like how to set up beneficiaries and what the special needs trust is meant for. How does that work? Things you might not know, like those little nuances, like the fact that if child support is a thing in your life, that gets treated differently and it needs to be directed to a first party special needs trust in some circumstances. We talk about other legal issues like guardianship, alternatives to guardianship, like a power of attorney or supported decision making. And what happens after high school. So these are some of the things that we cover in our weekly webinars. We do 2 or 3 webinars every week so that we are spreading this knowledge and helping you. When you receive these slides later on today, you'll see that this is a link to our not YouTube channel, to our website, where we list our coming webinars. You can pre-register for any of them that make sense or are things you want to learn about. And by pre-registering, you'll get reminders so you don't miss out on the webinar. You'll also get instant confirmation, so you have the link ready to go when the webinar starts. You'll be able to send in questions ahead of time so that we can make sure we answer those questions. And then also you get that email afterwards. So if you missed the webinar, or if you just want to take a look at the slides again, you get the email by pre-registering. This is our team at Consolidated Planning Group. We work collaboratively. All 4 financial advisors work together as a team on every single client. So you get all 4 of us and our histories of expertise and our personalities. Some of us are more analytical. Some of us are more bubbly and friendly. Some of us are going to fight the Social Security system for you if we need to. That's why we make such a great team. We are a small, independent firm, and that gives us the flexibility to really serve our clients the best that we can. Now, I want you to look at these smiling faces on the bottom row. That is our operations team. They or I or my husband, Andy, will be reaching out to you to see if you want to schedule your personal consultation. It's completely free. Look at how friendly they all are. So please give them your attention, give them your kindness and patience when they reach out to you. We're just trying to see if you would like to schedule this free consultation. If you don't want us to call you, what do they always say? If you don't want to be on my call list, be on my client list, right? If you don't want us to call you, go ahead and schedule your own free initial consultation. You can use the QR code. You can call or email the office, or you can call or email me directly, and I'd be happy to set up that appointment for you. It's over Zoom. Again, it's completely free, usually about 30 to 45 minutes to answer any questions you have, and then go over some helpful ideas for your family, what you should be looking at in terms of steps to take next. And then we talk about what we do as a company and how we can help your family, and if it's a good idea for you to work with us going forward. This slide, of course, also has our YouTube channel, Instagram, podcast, and Facebook. Okay, so now let's get to your questions. And like I said, since we've got about 15 minutes left, if you want to throw any general questions at me, I'd be happy to help with those as well until they run out, and then we can just end the webinar. So Jay says, can we add a special section of our own under the highlights or other categories specific for special needs children? Of course, Jay. Do whatever you want with your letter of intent. Do it how you want. What is easiest for you to do? Like I said, maybe you just grab a notebook and write. Dump it from your head into the notebook. When you go back and review it later, if something doesn't apply, just cross it out or rip that page out. This is for you and your family and your support team. So however it works best for you. And if you do put together a binder, you can add any sections or remove sections that don't matter to you. Randy says there is an online paid service that acts as a letter of intent, which has templates for filling in content. It was developed by parents of a special needs child. Well, that's fantastic. If you want to find something that you pay for, you can certainly do that. Like I said, later on today, if you've registered with your email address, you're going to receive a link to this video because we record our webinars. You're going to receive the slides from today's presentation, and you're going to receive the free template that we offer at Consolidated Planning Group. But if you would rather go pay for an online service, you can do that as well. Yes, Paulina, again, you'll get these slides in the email. You have the email and phone number for our office. Let me go ahead and put mine in the chat box again, just so that you can write that down. If you would prefer to reach out to me directly, I can schedule your free consultation. It will probably be with me or my husband anyway. So I'm happy to get that scheduled for you. If you would like to check out our YouTube channel, the link for that is in the chat. Okay. I don't see any more questions in the chat box, and I believe I got all the questions answered that were sent in earlier today. Let me just check those to be sure. Could someone contact me about special needs trusts? Yes, Myrna, if you're in here, we will be reaching out to you. And if you have questions about a special needs trust, go ahead and schedule with us. Now, we're not attorneys. We can't set up a special needs trust for you, but we can answer questions. We can give you some advice about how to fund it. And we can send you a list of attorneys that do focus on special needs topics who can help you. Allison says, I have visited with an associate of your company already. Well, thank you for that, Allison. Please send the link because I might not be able to attend. So, like I said, if you signed up for this webinar, like Allison did, she's going to get a copy of the slides, even if she couldn't make it today. Jay says, if your letter of intent can be modified with additional sections of our own needs. Oh, so if you open up the template that we're providing, can you add sections? I don't know. I have not gone through the entire template myself. I would suspect that you can type as much as or as little as you want to into that template. And that's again up to you. Jay, I see that you asked for a template and what should and should not be put into the letter of intent. So I hope I've been able to get all of your questions answered. Think of anything that you should not have in your letter of intent. Maybe family secrets or things that you don't want anyone to know. But really, when it comes to taking care of your family, no piece of information that can help should be left out. Just whatever you can think of, you can put into your letter of intent. And then Martitza says, I need help with a special needs trust. So again, for you, maybe look at some of the other webinars that we do about special needs trusts and legal issues. We have hosted complete webinars where we talk about the special needs trust or ABLE accounts or guardianship. You can look back in our YouTube channel. There is a search feature. So whatever information you want, you can type that into the search feature on the YouTube channel and find information about that. Of course, the best way to get those questions answered, your own personalized consultation. Now, when you register for your own consultation, there is a very important questionnaire that we send to you ahead of time. We cannot meet with you if you don't fill out that questionnaire. We will reschedule your appointment if we don't have the answers. It will take you less than 5 minutes to fill out, but we do need a little bit of information so that we can give you helpful advice and we're not just walking into this meeting without knowing anything about you. And it's nothing dramatic, just enough to know a little bit about who you are, things that we need to know so that we can know, what advice to give you. For example, we ask if you're still working or if you as a parent are receiving Social Security. Well, we need to know that because if you as a parent are getting Social Security, we can give you advice about getting benefits for your loved one. We ask, what benefits is your loved one already on? So that we can say, hey, if your child is over age 18 and they're not on SSI yet, why not? How can we help you with that? Or if you're not on the waiver waiting list yet, why not? How can we help you with that? We ask about birth dates because we need to know how old people are to give good advice regarding retirement needs or, the benefits that are available for your loved one depend sometimes on how old they are or how much money your family has. So that's why we ask the kinds of questions we ask on the initial questionnaire and why it is required before we can meet with you. Okay, so schedule your free consultation. We don't bite, I promise. We're truly here to help. If there's any other questions that I haven't answered for you today, feel free to call or email me directly, get in touch with the office. And I don't see anything else for today, so I will just end with this. I really do appreciate all of you for being here, whether it's the first webinar that you've attended with us or the 51st. I love to see it. I love to see repeat viewers, guests at our webinar, and I would love to get to know you. So if you need to chat about anything, reach out to me. I'm here for you. I feel like maybe through the webinars, you get to know who I am, and I don't really get to know who you are so much. So schedule your consultation. We'll chat a little bit, and I'm here to help. I hope you all have a great week. Have a great afternoon, and go find some happiness out there. Bye, everybody.